Family wins £2,000 payout after flight delays and blunders meant they missed long-awaited reunion in South Africa after being forced to sleep on airport benches and separated in hotel. A family has won a £2,000 payout after they were forced to sleep on airport benches when their trip to South Africa was ruined. Anton Van Der Hoven, 52, his wife Val, 57, and their 2 children, faced cancellations as well as diversions and delays and ended up being separated in a hotel. They were due to fly from Heathrow to their final destination of Johannesburg via Frankfurt in Germany but ended up arriving 3 days late. The family, from Lymington, Hampshire, had booked to fly with airline Lufthansa and have now won a large payout after their trip turned into a holiday from hell. At one point they were told to get a connecting flight to Angola but were stopped from boarding because they had not been given yellow fever vaccinations. Mr. Van Der Hoven, an electrician, was with his wife and their children Ben, 10, and Alex, 12. They had to fly to Cologne before eventually arriving in Frankfurt and then had to board a different flight to Istanbul before finally landing in Johannesburg. To make things worse, some of their luggage went missing. Mrs. Van Der Hoven said, "We spent the night on an airport bench as no arrangements had been made for alternative accommodation. My husband and I stayed awake to keep an eye on our luggage at all times. Very early in the morning I tried to call the Lufthansa offices in London and Frankfurt, without success. After looking round, we found a Lufthansa representative who was putting passengers into taxis to travel back to Frankfurt. A flight from Frankfurt to South Africa was delayed thanks to technical problems and then cancelled hours later. Lufthansa told the family they weren't entitled to a refund because the first leg of the journey was disrupted by bad weather. However, the German airline has given them a £2,120 payout as a goodwill gesture and not part of any compensation." Mrs. Van Der Hoven said, "2 of our bags did not come off the baggage claim and we were told that they may be lost or on another flight. Whilst at the baggage claim, we were told we were booked on a flight to Luanda, Angola, the following evening with a connecting flight 9 hours later to Johannesburg. We had not received a text informing us of this." Mrs. Van Der Hoven stayed at the airport to try to change the onward flights from Luanda to Johannesburg while her husband and their 2 children went to a hotel. She said, "It was unacceptable to ask us to wait for a connecting flight for 9 hours at an airport with 2 children. At the hotel, they were given 2 double rooms on separate floors. During this time, the 2 lost suitcases turned up at the hotel." Mrs. Van Der Hoven added, "While queuing to try to change the flights, there was a lot of confusion among staff, as well as passengers who were not sure which desks they should be at to rebook their flights. I was told the only way to get to Johannesburg was via Angola, but there were just 3 seats on an earlier flight out of Luanda with only a 3-hour stopover. I accepted this for my husband and the 2 children, leaving me with the 9-hour stopover." Heathrow Airport Frankfurt Johannesburg. However, just before they tried to board they were refused entry to the plane as they didn't have yellow fever vaccinations. Lufthansa had not informed them these would be required. Mrs. Van Der Hoven said, "This wasted another day of our holiday, waiting for a flight that we could never board. We queued at the desk and were eventually rebooked for the following day via Istanbul with Lufthansa, and Turkish Airways onwards to Johannesburg, and given another hotel voucher for yet another night's stay in Frankfurt." The family eventually made it to South Africa via Turkey but missed their family reunion. Mrs. Van Der Hoven said, "We queued for over 13 hours during our 3-day delay. For the children, this was the first trip to South Africa since they were babies and our trip of a lifetime to show them their father's country and to meet relatives who had not seen them since they were babies." Heathrow Airport Cologne Frankfurt Istanbul Johannesburg. Because of the delays and cancellations, we missed a family reunion in Johannesburg, held in our honor, that can never be replaced. Not only was our arrival 3 days later than scheduled, but the treatment we received from the Lufthansa booking clerks, cabin crew and other staff on the whole was rude, surly and not of the standard we were expecting from an airline with a reputation such as Lufthansa. This experience was made worse because of the lack of information available, the lack of staff with appropriate knowledge and staff who were unhelpful and at times embarrassed by what was happening to us. A spokesperson from the airline said, "We do everything in our power to maintain flight schedules and avoid waiting times for our passengers. Occasionally factors outside our control, such as adverse weather, may cause delays,